catch up with my. Try to catch up with my. Try to catch up with my.
So we've all heard about the obesity crisis and how Americans have gotten heavier. But it's not only happening here, it's also happening overseas.
Despite of everything I saw, it's slowing down time, changing all the laws. Try to catch it with my hands, so that I can take it home.
The USA is known for many things. From its national parks to beautiful Pacific coastline, rugged Western country, a unique culture, Hollywood, and many other things. Being such a powerful country for decades, it has had global impact. Most of the global impact from the USA has been positive, but there is an ugly side to this, which is fueled with corporate and political greed. One of these ugly sides is obesity. America is the land of the obese, and ironically, it is also the country which has the most influential fitness gurus. It also leads the world by performing the most bariatric procedures annually. The US also controls nearly 30% of global market when it comes to health and wellness foods, which is contradicting because it's also the #1 producer of processed foods, which includes stuff like GMO, candy, soda, basically a complete opposite of health and wellness foods. What does this all tell us? The USA is a well-oiled machine for doing everything it can to make money off of its citizens. The consumer, the average American, gets played by this vicious cycle of not knowing what to do, what to believe, and at the end of it all, the people are left confused. They spend their hard-earned money to continually fix themselves on medical costs, on healthier foods, on fitness, on foods which are advertised as healthy but are poisonous to our health. It doesn't stop here though. These large US corporations have taken their greed globally, and now the world is getting fat. Countries which were healthy are now declining rapidly in health. If you are new here, I am Jay and my other half is Stefan. Half of the year we live here in Southern California and the other half we live in Germany. In Germany, although there is influence from the USA, it is nothing compared to how the US has influenced this negative food culture in these third world countries. And so the US targets these third world countries or countries that have less regulations and providing worse food than ever for mega profits. The same foods that they produce in the USA are far worse in these countries. And the foods are chemically laden with ingredients which are banned in the first world countries. In India, for example, up until about 2018, Domino's Pizza used fake cheese on their pizza. They still deny it to this day. Even the pizza crust was found with chemicals. In a 2022 documentary, a Domino's pizza from India was sent to a laboratory and the results are shocking. The cheese contained 52 grams of fat, which is equivalent of 5 soup spoons full of oil, and had no trace of real cheese. And a single serving of garlic bread contained nearly 12% of saturated fats. And then in Brazil, MacDonalds has clawed its way through into schools, preying on young children, subliminally advertising and promoting unhealthy foods. And since the arrival of these US corporations like McDonald's and Coca Cola, the obesity rate in Brazil has risen significantly. Nearly 8 out of 11 children in Brazil are now at a high risk of being obese. The world's fattest nation is Nauru, and the cause is the presence of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Coca Cola. Obesity has become a worldwide pandemic. It has tripled since the 1970s. The problem is that around the world, more people are eating like Americans. More fat, more sugar, more meat. Global obesity is not something that just happened, but it was planned and thoughtfully executed by corporate greed. the US exports its diet to all corners of the world. As the regulations in the USA tighten up with the rise of health-conscious people, the corporations have found other means of exploitation and profits by going to countries which have less and in some cases no regulations on food content. So how did we get here? When did this greed start in the USA? Back in the early 70s, the price of food was skyrocketing, so President Nixon told farmers to grow more corn. He was fearful that his political status, due to fluctuating food prices, would be in jeopardy. So he used his agricultural secretary, William Booth, to subsidize the farmers to increase production of corn. The result of this was abundance of high fructose corn syrup, which was a significantly cheaper ingredient. This fixed the cost of the food and also increased profits for large food corporations, all while destroying good old American agriculture, but further introducing the industrial farming. Corn was cheap to grow and completely changed our modern day eating habits. High fructose corn syrup is a sweetener used in our modern day soft drinks. Soft drink industries began using this syrup in 1980 because it was 20 to 70% less expensive compared to sugar. High fructose corn syrup is cheap, sweet, makes food taste great, it makes food last longer, and that's why it is in so much of the junk food which is sold in stores today. It is also highly addictive, much more than sugar. Research has shown that high fructose corn syrup impacts the brain in a way similar to addictive drugs. It triggers a response in the brain's reward system, which leads to continued cravings, same way as a narcotic. And the huge food corporations have known this, and they're using it to their advantage. According to Environmental Health Perspectives, in 2004, in just 20 years alone, the intake of high fructose corn syrup went up by 1,000%. I mean, that is pretty crazy. There's no escaping from this because they put it nearly in everything. For example, to make peanut butter, the only one ingredient that you need is roasted peanuts. But if you take a jar of Skippy peanut butter from the USA, which is one of the most popular peanut butter brands here, instead of having a single ingredient, it has roasted peanuts, corn syrup solids, sugar, soy, protein concentrate, salt, hydrogenated vegetable oils, not just one, but 3, cottonseed, soybean, and rapeseed oil, mono and diglycerides, and added minerals and added vitamins. Once the people started catching on, these corporations started using different names for these sugars to mask and confuse the consumers. There are over 50 different names for sugar, which makes it very easy for the corporations to hide it. American junk food didn't just stay in America though. It went around the world. How? Well, through free trade. And although free trade has its positive aspects, it also has its negative aspects, especially for countries which are poor. Let's take Samoa, for example. Samoa's typical diet was coconut, seafood, and bananas. After World War II, Americans began consuming more turkey, except for one part of the turkey, which connects the tail to the bird, the oily, fat part of the turkey. Americans knew that they were not going to consume this, so they started sending it over to Samoa. At one point, the average Samoan was eating 44 pounds of turkey tails in a year. Yale School of Public Health found that it led to 93% of Samoans becoming overweight or obese. And then in 1993, America, Canada, and Mexico signed the NAFTA agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And right after that, something tragic happened. The USA basically destroyed Mexico's food system. It turned Mexico into a dumping ground of cheap, low-nutrient, highly processed foods. In 1988, in Mexico, 34.5% of the people were obese. But just after the agreement was signed, in 30 years, that number jumped to 75.2%. And the leading cause of death in Mexico right now is diabetes. And these foods are ruining the lives of many. Whether it is here in the USA or it is in a third world country, the issue is common. These US food companies are manipulating food science to trick us into thinking it is good. They spread false information through labels and advertising and by exploiting customers, and that is not okay. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments below.